Monday, February 22nd, 2021. I just returned from my morning run. Before starting my cooldown stretches, I grabbed my phone and checked my YouTube feed to see Daft Punk have uploaded their first video in 5 years. Ecstatic, I click on the video. Titled Epilogue, I perceived it as the announcement of their final album before the robotic duo retired. I, like many people, was taken aback by what I saw. No final album, no explanation, no last words. Daft Punk was over. I listened to their entire discography, their songs hitting harder than usual. However, the announcement also gave me the urge to revisit their films. I don't mean the films they made music for like Tron Legacy, but films they've actively had creative input in. I'm referring to the films they directed, the films they helped write, and the films they were the focus of. What I like to call the Daft Punk trilogy. Daft Punk Unchained, Interstellar 5555, The Story of the Secret Star System, and Daft Punk's Electroma. I found these films are not nearly discussed enough when the topic of Daft Punk is brought up, so I figured what better time than now to talk about the filmography of Daft Punk. Daft Punk Unchained is a documentary released in 2015 that covers the career of the robotic duo up until that point in time. This film is fairly straightforward, leaving not much to be said about it. One thing the film does communicate immaculately is the impact of Daft Punk through the years. Someone unfamiliar with the group would suddenly understand the importance of their music and the impact it had around the world. The film takes advantage of Daft Punk refusing to show their faces for interviews, and shows the impact the duo had on the music industry, instead of showing the impact the music industry had on the duo. The documentary interviews several artists Daft Punk has collaborated with, Kanye West, Pharrell Williams, and Paul Williams being but a few. By telling the story of Daft Punk through producers, fans, managers, and other artists, the impact of Daft Punk's music on audiences, the music industry, and other artists is effectively communicated. Overall, this is an easy recommendation for people looking to, or people just starting to get into, Daft Punk. Interstellar 5555, The Story of the Secret Star System, is a Japanese film animated by Toei Animation and is set to the 2003 Daft Punk album Discovery. Discovery was the album that really made a name for Daft Punk in the United States, having a very glossy, slick, futuristic style that was revolutionary for the time. Interstellar reflects the style and presentation of Discovery visually, with gorgeous alien settings, bright colors, and polished machines. Thanks to the music, Interstellar moves at a brisk pace, not wasting a second to unnecessary filler. Additionally, each song brilliantly complements the events and visuals of the film, making each cut and action far more exciting. The film tells the story of a band of aliens being kidnapped by a galactic businessman who changes their appearances in order to make them appeal to the largest audience possible. However, a superfan pilot named Shep takes action and goes to save the band. Within its hour runtime, not only is the plot properly communicated with no dialogue, the film also presents rather interesting and complex themes, such as losing one's sense of self and the potential damaging relationships between industries and artists. Despite the melancholic themes and moments of Interstellar, the film ends on a happy note. In contrast to the somber themes of before, The film ends by saying no matter where you are from, no matter what you look like, music can bring everyone together. A film necessary for every Daft Punk fan of any degree. Daft Punk's Electroma was supposed to be a music video for the duo's third studio album, Human After All. But as they were filming more and more footage, they decided to turn it into a feature film. The film clocks in at just over an hour long, but the runtime is filled with seemingly meaningless, dragged-out shots. The lack of music does not help the film's slower pace. Anyone excited for Daft Punk's signature beats to blast over the adventure of the robots would sadly be disappointed, as the film uses music composed by several other artists, very few resembling the genre of Daft Punk. The film is quite abstract in presentation, leaving much up to interpretation, which could alienate some audience members. In addition, not much takes place throughout the film, yet despite the simplicity of the story, the presentation seemingly goes on forever. However, despite these issues, this is my favorite of the three films. While yes, this film can be a slog to get through, this film also communicates what the previous two films did and more. This film can be read in several different ways, to the point where no two viewers would come out with the same interpretation. My personal interpretation is this is a response to the reaction of critics and fans to their album, Human After All. After their extremely successful Discovery album, Human After All was met with mixed reviews at best. Many found the album too simple and a step back in artistic integrity, as if Daft Punk were already on a downward spiral on their third studio album. Now, within the film, Daft Punk are on a journey to become human. They go to a lab and begin the transformation. They leave with new humanistic looks, but it's not quite right. It's rough, messy, unsettling to look at. They are rejected by the village, like the fans rejecting their album, and the sun starts to melt away their new human appearance, possibly representing the way the rest of the musical world rejected their album. Daft Punk, unsure of what to do next after their rejection from the village, go off on a journey through the desert. After wandering aimlessly, the silver robot stops. The gold robot activates a mechanism on the silver robot's back, causing him to walk off and explode. The gold robot follows suit, smashing his helmet and using the broken glass to light himself on fire. At the time of release, this ending confused many. Was Daft Punk over? Are the robots gone? Though nothing seemed to change. However, after the use of this ending to announce their breakup with their epilogue video, it's hard not to think the two considered breaking up before this point. Was the backlash to Human After All so great that the duo possibly considered ending it there? We'll never know for sure. But like I said, there's a lot more to read into this film. My interpretation isn't the only way to read into this story. What it means to be human, rejecting those who dare to be different, focusing on smaller imperfections over the bigger picture, are all themes hidden within the film, but are also in plain sight. This is a hard recommendation for those who haven't already seen it, but I encourage you to check it out and form your own opinion.
Touch, I remember touch. Pictures came with touch. A painter in my mind. Tell me what you see. A tourist in a dream. A visitor, it seems. A half-forgotten song. Where do I belong? Tell me what you see. I need something more.
I only recently started listening to Daft Punk a couple of years ago, and immediately became hypnotized by their memorizing, futuristic music. Discovery, Alive 2007, and Random Access Memories quickly became some of my favorite albums. I had never been a fan of Daft Punk when an album was released, so for me, Daft Punk were the existing albums and the robots. But now, half of that's gone. The robots added such a unique presence and mystery to the music, giving the illusion that these sounds were quite literally from the future. With the robots having parted ways, their music no longer sounds like the mysterious technological future, but more as a somber sound of an era come and gone. This is why I found it so interesting to look back on the films of Daft Punk. The films initially only seemed to be complementary pieces to their music, but now with Daft Punk having parted, they all seem infinitely more important. Unchained now is a documentary covering nearly the entirety of Daft Punk's career. Interstella is a message to those getting into the music industry to stay true to themselves. Electroma's ending takes on an entirely different meaning, with the knowledge of how it's used with epilogue. Even when Daft Punk is no more, their work is still evolving.